entrepreneur with rich experience leading innovation in both industry and academy. My background combines MBA in global entrepreneurship and PhD in AI. As you see, these two very different personalities live inside one body, and this is the essence of the company itself as well, because my partner Yoav, he's a clinical neuroscientist, and Yoel is a sales and e-commerce professional. And are executed by brilliant software engineers with whom we are in touch with their master and even bachelor studies. So we are really growing from the ground, from the academia into the business world. And iBrain is a true alliance of entrepreneurship and science, backed by advisors. Nir Tarlovsky, executive chairman of Pixelot, one of the most famous company in the United States right now in AI automated sports production, and Oren Simonyan, who is the founder of global Colosseum Group platform for innovations in sports. So this is the essence of our team. And the question that we always ask ourselves is, it's commonly said, we all know that in sports, 90% of success is mental and 10% physical. But spend 90% of their time working on physical training. The reality is that there are almost no solutions to directly train the most important organ, the brain. And we came here to change it. iBrain has created a unique tool for athletes to improve their performance by enhancing brain ability to control sports-specific movements. The concept is simple. The user plays a game that he controls with his mind only. First, you put on EEG cap, and the AI algorithms decode brain signals. To play, you need to imagine a movement, for instance, a free kick, in all details. If you do it well, your avatar will execute the movement you intended and score. This means that success in neurotraining depends on your brain efforts. This forms a feedback loop that creates persistent changes in the brain, which lead to improvement of performance in the field. The technology was applied in several professional clubs, and the pilot in the FC Kolomagi club demonstrated increase of accuracy of free kicks by more than 30% within 6 weeks. The solution helps athletes to improve their performance both in the regular season and in special periods. In Corona times, players and coaches stressed the need for remote training. And recently we have released a new version that supports distant self-learning. It is also important for rehabilitation period when a player has a ban to training in the field. So he can leverage the time off court or off the field to master his brain performance. But in addition, it provides coaches and sports directors with unique neuro insights and dashboards that help them better understand and manage their players. And later on, I'll be happy to elaborate in discussion, what does it mean really for sports professionals being able to look inside the mental profiles of athletes. But from the business perspective, for sports clubs, we offer a B2B subscription that includes equipment and software licenses for a team. The monthly license is $800, and the contract depends on the number of players willing to try it. Our primary buyers are professional clubs, and our users are players, professional players in these teams. Next step is to accelerate traction with football and extend platform for the basketball. Already today, we have a strong interest from 2 NBA clubs who understand the impact of brain training into the accuracy of 3 throws of their players. And after achieving significant results in B2B, we envisage starting B2C operations for millions of early stage athletes and youth. This is the very, very big vision and mission of ours, to bring brain science into brain development of those who would like to master their capabilities. The market of sports tech is growing rapidly, and it's about to triple in 5 years. And we all understand now that professional sports is not sports, pure sports anymore. It's primarily technology. It's technology of fan engagement, it's technology of stadium management, content development, and also it is a technology for athlete development. Football is the largest consumer of innovation in sports, but basketball is the second and the fastest growing. But competition is emerging. Primarily, right now, in neuro training for football, we have two major categories. First is stimulators. They indeed apply current stimulation to the regions in the brain that control movement. They excite them, and it results in increase of performance. But at the moment you switch it off, you're getting back to norm and even below, because you exhaust your capabilities. And another option is different type of gaming solutions that tend to improve the reaction time or ability to apply different strategies in real time. So this type of gaming or cognitive environment that enhance strategic decisions. Unlike stimulators or games, iBrain technology allows athletes to naturally train hardcore capabilities of the brain to control movements. And it creates new networks or inside the brain regions that leads to new skills that we are launching operations with several football clubs in Israel and Europe. We have 10 more in the pipeline. In addition, we have started sales in Germany with a sports center who provide services in Corona times to athletes of local clubs. They arrive to their camp facilities and they train on the ground. We partner with leading innovation hubs. We have been accepted to 500 startups in the Silicon Valley, in Google Campus for startups. We are a member of Colosseum Sports Innovation Group and Techstars Sports. We reached to this point on our vision and passion and a few grants that we have, and now we have got a final commitment for 1 million investment out of 1.5 million round. We focus on football, but we understand how big the neurosports training can be. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to discuss it further.
Thank you very much, Konstantin, for such an impressive presentation. And as far as I understand, this is quite a revolutionary development, yes. And at the same time, it's very practical and handy that athletes can use. And we have Dusan, who actually, as an athlete himself, he tried, yes, this system. And Dusan, approaching you, could you share your feelings and perspectives from the athletes' point of view? So you as a footballer, yes, training with this thing, and how did you feel yourself on the pitch after? What insights did you get, if you've been reflecting about it, of course?
Hello everyone. Sorry, my camera something doesn't work. I tried to turn on, but did you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I shortly want to introduce myself. I'm Dusan Matovic. I'm Serbian football player playing in Israel. Almost 9 years. I played, in different countries, in Serbia, Belarus, Slovakia, in Lithuania. I'm also a football coach. I finished the UFA. I started coaching U17 in the first division in Israel. Also, I'm a graduate in the University of Sport and Physical Education in Belgrade. and I met iBrain. Before a few months, I was in the course in Tel Aviv about startup media and sport, and we met every week like new startup companies, like they are in the sport tech technology, and I saw something really special. And I asked them if I can try it, because I think that is some kind of regular game that is very easy to play, and I think first of all that was a joke, but when I start to use it and they explain me everything that you can control really just with your brain, you don't need to do nothing else. Like for me, it was amazing. I try to make some kind of jokes. I think about something different, not about the shooting on the goal. I joke. That was a lot of friends of mine in the room, and really was really difficult for me to concentrate and to score the goal. And suddenly, I start to be very focused. Also, you have a different kind of levels. You have power, you have concentration, and suddenly I start to score goal. And it was very funny that you need to, like in the real game, like in the football game, if you are not concentrated even in 1 second, you pay, and you lose the points, you lose the money, and that can be damage of your career, and it's very important. The next thing I think that is is crucial to also, not just for the adult players. I think iBrain can help a lot in the youth department. I spoke with Konstantin. I spoke, with a few clubs, and in the next month, we will try, in a couple of clubs, also in the youth department. And if the kids, they can play a lot of games at home and the concentration of there is very low, I think this kind of technology in football, they can help them a lot. And after, we can see better performance in the football field. Mm-hmm. If you have any question, I can answer. This is what I can say.
Dusan, one question from the perspective of the player. So now technologies are considered as a new weapon, and so you basically support the implementation of different technologies in your practice, or do you think it can be considered some unfair advantage? Yes, from those athletes who cannot use it.
Yes, because the football game is changed. Before 20 years, 30 years, football was much slower, and also the physical condition of the players, was different, and the game and the tactic, everything was different. And then the new technology like GPS, and we have, a lot of new, I think, wonderful technology. I think the iBrain is something special. I don't know if we have, something similar in the sport. I really don't know. Maybe yes. Something that can put in the other level the football game, and also to help to the players to play better, to have better performance in the field, and this is the final result that everybody wants, like football players. And also for coaches, I think they have another picture. They have picture on the field, and also they can control iBrain training. They can also see the performance of the players, and if they make better, like also concentration and also power of the shots. And I think this is great idea.
Thank you, Dusan. And now we have also Valery, who is the head of FC Kolomyagi, basically the I think, the only Russian youth football academy that used iBrain, yes, in testing. And from my personal side, I would like to say that FC Kolomagi is the only maybe youth Russian academy that is quite innovative in approaches while dealing with young athletes and their preparation. And Valery, maybe you could share your perspective and vision on this topic, basically. And then it's also important to consider the Russian background, yes, and in terms of approaches in the preparation of football players and how technology actually makes us a bit diverse in the country, yes, and sometimes ahead of different big football countries like England, like Netherlands, and also Germany, yes, who are a bit ahead and using it intensively already for many years in a row.
Thank you, Elena. Hello, everybody. First of all, I should like to thank a lot to Konstantin and his company iBrain that they are cooperating with our club. It's really interesting to learn something new, some new technologies in football, and to see to the football process from other angle. From the angle of new technologies. At this moment, we know, I speak about, I think, all the coaches around the world, how to prepare players to the matches, explain tactics, to improve their performance during training session, how to make some new condition, speed, agility, and so on. But we don't know exactly what is in our brain, the brain of our players, and how to train our brains, how to do cognitive training, to be more clever on the field, and how to have concentration on the whole match. Dusan speak a few minutes ago about it, and how to make the fast and correct decision. So how to manage our brains that improve all our football skills. So this is cognitive training. I think this is new for all of us. In our work with Konstantin and his team, we tried to get into the brains of our players from our football school, and to see is it possible with this technology we make this experiment to change something in training process. Konstantin and his team did their work in computer class, of course, and we did just the same exercises on the field as a practice. So all the results on computer and in the field were very positive for all our players, and they improve their skills in the both ways. In this period of testing this program, we prepared to competitions. We went to Championship of Russia between the teams under 17, and it was very interesting for us in this championship that the first 4 goals on these tournaments were scored the 4 tested players. Altogether, we scored 6 goals, and 5 of this were scored these players. It were 2 forward and 2 midfields, and they scored these goals in the way we tested them on a computer. All the shoots from the distance around 20 meters, like on the exercises that was in the program. And maybe I'm not sure, of course, maybe it is a coincidence, but this is a fact. I can say nothing more. This is a fact. We spoke with neuroscience from Israel. Konstantin gave this opportunity for us. And two main things we improve with this program. This is making concentration better, and we improve, of course, the speed of reaction. And the main thing is that we can do not on the field. We can do it on the computer class or maybe at home. So we can train everywhere. We can, of course, when we have such opportunities. So for me, it was also saving time during the training. For example, if we have 20 players on the field, we spend about 20-25 minutes when we shoot on the goal. But during this time, each player make around 10 or 12 shoots. It's not too much. For example, just for this time, for 20-25 minutes on this program, we can make about 60 or 70 shoots on the goal. And the feeling after that, just the same as I have been on the field. We tried this program not only with the players. Some of our coaches tried this program, and the feeling of the exercises just the same as on the field. So, to my opinion, of course, this is my opinion, this technology has a great future because we can improve some little skills individual with players, and they can do it themselves with our coach, for example. We can see only the results after that. And of course, when we have a mutual training session, we can see the results on the field. So this is my opinion.
Thank you, Valery. This is interesting perspective, and I would like to use the opportunity and to ask Mike, who is a sports psychologist actually, and who is the guy who actually trains the brain, but in a scientific, classical way. Yes, so yes. He's the mental coach. Who, I don't know, is this machine or device your competitor or it's your supporter in your professional practice?
Oh, I played sport when I was much younger, but there was always somebody better in whatever thing I tried to do. So by way of introduction, thank you, Konstantin, thank you, Valery, for what you've said so far, and thank you, Yelena, for the introduction. Sorry, by way of introduction and a little humor, I hope. It's over 20 years. I've been working in psychology since 1996, so 24 years. And England was historically very, very, very bad at a lot of sports at that time. And I wanted to figure out an explanation. And it became pretty obvious to me that if everybody trained the same, ate the same, slept the same, there couldn't be much left that would separate these athletes from different sports and different countries. And I've worked with football, but my initial work was in a sport called rugby league, which is dominated by Australia. New Zealand are also very good. Tonga are very good. And England were not so good, despite inventing the game. And there's something familiar with football. And I wanted to figure out what it was. And my PhD, to make it very short, my PhD was basically an explanation of the mindset being responsible more than physical attributes for superior sports performance. And this was qualitative and quantitatively demonstrated with athletes from different levels, different backgrounds, and different cultures. And so my interest in the psychology is obviously very, very strong. And my specific area is something called mental toughness. And that is a phrase that's used very liberally by people around the world. And I don't think always people know exactly what mental toughness is, or maybe at best there is some disagreement over what mental toughness is. But I believe Konstantin and Valerie have pretty much hit the nail on the head with what they've said so far. Personally, I believe that mental toughness is confidence, something I call constancy, which is ultimately taking responsibility for your training and performances. This applies to coaches as well as players, and also emotional control, that you are able to keep a lid on your emotions and don't disadvantage yourself or your team, etc. And I can't help but think that this technology is absolutely wonderful for that. Mental toughness is not the skill. Mental toughness is the attribute. It's the personality style. And you need to develop the skill, such as, say, visualization, to improve the confidence, which in turn improves, in this example, the football performance. And in my experience of working with athletes, if there is one area of psychological skills training which to this day remains neglected, it's visual training. And I've wondered if that's because it's time consuming, asking athletes to sit down and imagine a scenario. Maybe they don't want, you meet as a psychologist, I've met with some resistance over this because they are not sure about its worth. They think it might take too much time, despite the overwhelming evidence that it does work. But also, I can't help but think that many of the athletes maybe just lack the imagination to picture in pictures what it is that they need. This technology fills that gap. They don't have to think themselves. It can be given for them. And also, it can be done at any given time. If an athlete has time in the middle of the afternoon to do this, fantastic. If they want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and do this, that is fantastic as well. And they can do it without prodding or by the coach. They can do it themselves, which is fantastic for taking responsibility, which is absolutely critical for athletes. And of course, if you imagine yourself doing well at something, you should be able to transport that, as Valerie said earlier, you should be able to transport that to the actual field of play, in this example, football. So there is excellent validity that you can, external validity, that you can take it from the laboratory setting into the actual open space. I personally, I think it's fantastic. And I think it was Johan Cruyff that said, for every 90 minutes of football, a player only has the ball at his feet for 3 minutes. I think that's about right. And those 3 minutes, that's not a lot in 1.5 hours of play. And you've got to do something with those 3 minutes every time. Every time you get the ball, you've got to do something with it. And I can't help but think that this technology is a wonderful opportunity for athletes to take advantage of that, and also for them to take the responsibility for it. And obviously, and I don't want to take up too much time and take up the floor from other contributors, but of course the coronavirus has already been mentioned. I don't know about you guys, but I watched some German football at the weekend. I had to turn it off because the absence of a crowd was terrible. I mean, I actually I couldn't imagine what it was like. It wasn't the best. But if that's the way it's going to go, then we have to look at that. But certainly training is like that. It's very rare you get an audience for training. And if you have players who are reluctant to join a group for training because they're worried about bringing the virus into their home, then you have which is the case in English football. There are several players in England who don't want to train with their teams because they're fearful of bringing the virus into their home environment. Then this affords the coach the opportunity to say, well, okay, Mike, for example, you don't want to train, but you have the opportunity to train at home and do this. And also from a psychological intervention, speaking as a psychologist, speaking as a practicing psychologist, I'm extremely curious to use this technology as the intervention. So if you were to measure athletes, so you would randomly divide them into intervention and control groups, I would really like to see the impact that the intervention, the technology, would have on the treatment group, and obviously compare the groups at the very end. I would be so fascinated to see see what would happen there. Does that make sense? What I have said so far?
Yes, absolutely. I don't
And
know.
also, sorry if I may just reiterate the last thing. Something else in England. I can't speak for other countries, but in England, children are no longer allowed to head the ball. Does this make sense? Because of concussion injuries and degenerative brain conditions. So this technology would be a substitute for younger children who can't head the ball in real life, but they could practice the skill with the technology. I don't know whether that rule applies in other countries, but in England, children can no longer head the ball. So in PE lessons, for example, they can't do that. So their coaches would have to think of something else. So which is a bit difficult, because in a real life situation, of course, at some point when they are older, they will end up heading the ball. So they'll be asked to do a skill which they won't, as children, have developed like they will have done every other skill. So there's something specific there with heading the ball. And also, as has already been mentioned, the fact with injuries, in my work with athletes, a lot of athletes are very, very tentative when it comes to training again after they have been injured. They're very fearful of becoming re-injured. And this technology removes, it seems to remove, or it should remove, some of those fears. Is that okay?
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. And yeah, while I'm waiting for the questions, what do you think about, guys? Yes, so you just had different perspectives, different things to consider. Of course, a lot of information, but everything is very interesting. But for me, it looks a bit challenging because I'm not that technological advanced. But I'm thinking myself, like, from the perspective of the coach. So the coach is facing a lot of this kind of diverse information, and he doesn't have the skills. And he's like, this is your barrier. He's not moving forward. How to continue, how to move with this? Valery, what do you think?
You said a very right thing, that there are a lot of different information. Everything is very interesting, and some mess in the brain. Now, maybe ask Konstantin to clean something in the brain. He is a specialist in this. But to my opinion, all this technology and all these questions that we discussed in presentation will develop in future, and when coronavirus will over, I believe we forgot about it, but these new technologies, when we use, for example, now in this period, to prepare players, to think how players work without team, out from field, this will develop in any way. So what we spoke about today, it was very useful, and maybe for questions, I need the time to ask some people after that. Not now. Too much information for me.
Mike, do you consider that you will get new clients from the athlete side who will be coming to you and saying, "Oh, I feel myself so under control from different devices and systems. When I wake up, the clock is telling me, and all information is sent to the coach. What time I wake up, what time I go to sleep, what I eat, how I train. So I don't feel myself in a kind of where is the creativeness? Or I don't know how to express maybe more concretely." But it's actually from certain perspective can be a pressure, stressful for athletes, yes, who are at the early stage of their professional development and already put into a lot of devices at the same time.
Yeah. First of all, can I say thank you to everybody for the presentations. I thought that was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. It was like being back at university, learning all about the subject all over again. I agree. I can't remember who said it now, but the phrase was paradigm shift, and it is. This is a new era, and whether it's been forced upon us by this awful disease that's going around the world, or whether this would have happened regardless of the disease, I don't know. But I think this coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever you want to call it, I think it's only going to accelerate the likelihood that people, athletes, coaches, organizations will see such technology as a fantastic opportunity. Having worked with a number of professional sports clubs, I'll come back to grassroots in a minute, but when I've worked with professional clubs, I've always been amazed at the amount of data that is collected. And two things I've noticed. One, there is more information than the clubs know what to do with. Myself and a very good friend of mine were at one particular football club where a sports scientist readily admitted that they collect more data than they know what to do with. A load of stuff is collected and it's lost. So you may as well not collect the data. I mean, it's just a waste of time. The other thing is, I was working at another organization where athletes were being asked their opinions or measurements were being taken. The athletes had no buy-in. They turned up. What did you eat? How did you sleep? Whatever. The athletes didn't know why they were being asked the questions. They had no commitment to it. And without commitment, it's pointless. And if you have a sports scientist collecting all these data and the subjects or participants have no idea why, if you like, they are kept naive to it all, then there's no real incentive for them to bother that much with it. And it's very important that someone like myself, who I think this is great. I mean, really, I think this is fantastic. It's important that somebody like me can convey that enthusiasm to the end user, but also not just the people who are buying the equipment, but the people upon whom it will be used. So the athletes, for example. And you know something, you only need two things to be good at anything. You know, you need talent, obviously, and you need the right mindset. Now, if you've got those two things, you need to develop them. But those are the only two ingredients you need. This technology can help both. It will obviously help the talent, whatever that is, whether it's sport in this instance, in particular football, but it can only help the psychology because of what is required to engage with this. And the results I think you would get from this can only improve your psychology because you will see the improvements. So from a psychological point of view, I see positives. I mean, I am a pretty positive person. I think it helps to be positive. Don't get me wrong, I'm no Pollyanna. I don't think everything is perfect, but I have a lot of optimism with this, and I can see so many advantages, and anything that is not even negative, but anything that's less than positive, it can be ironed out. Anything that's good evolves. So we have something now, and it may not be in 5 years exactly how we envisage it, but we have something now to begin with. And I'm deeply grateful to the other panelists for the presentations that they've given. It's been incredibly eye-opening for me, and it makes me realize that as a psychologist, it could only improve my practice. So, for example, getting an athlete to engage more with some psychological skills training, this is exactly the kind of technology that would help with that. So if I meet with resistance from somebody saying, I haven't got time to do this imagery, or I'm not bothered about this relaxation technique, or I don't want to do this training, somebody like me can say, well, you can do it from the comfort of your own living room. We can make it a bit more interesting than you might have thought it would be. So we can overcome the objections which previously have been a problem.
Yeah, great.
So thank you for the panelists for
Thank you very much.
educating me in this. Thank you.
Thank you for your perspective. Thank you. And we have Dusan, who have been silent. This is our athlete coach, who actually is quite innovative. Yes, Dusan, tell us. Finally, you've been using iBrain, but will you be this? How to say? Advocate for various technologies in your practice? Yes, and how do you see what coaches really need? Yes, extra education, the change of their coaching philosophy, some support. Federations, clubs, governmental bodies should remodel. I don't know, the educational system should bring coaches some support in interventions, or how to start if the coaches do not know.
Sorry, do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Like I said before, the football game is changed, and a lot of coaches also in Serbia and also in Israel, they are old-fashioned guys. They don't like too much technology, and it's really difficult, to explain them how this really can improve the athletes. And I think somebody said that like the human hand or human touch, it's very important. But these kind of things like iBrain or GPS, or also I have one wonderful idea. It's calling Zone 7. It's like prevent injuries. It's also from Israel. I think these kind of things, they just can help, also to the players, also to coaches, and also to the football clubs. The lifestyle is changed. The kids, they don't move too much, and it's really difficult, they like to play with the phones, and I also work with the 7 years old, 8 years old. Also, I work with U17, and I saw that the physical condition of them is not so good. Also, they are not concentrate enough. And with the technology, maybe we can take, part of the time they use the phones and they sit at home. Maybe they can play, the game like iBrain. It's maybe help them, to be concentrate more. And also in the football, one of the most important things is anticipation, and to react, in the right time, and to read the game good. And really, I used iBrain, a couple of times, and it's helped me, to make, better anticipation.
Thank you, Dusan. Thank you. And I think we'll take one last question from our participants. This is from the sports committee of St. Petersburg. So the question is, do you think that there should be some limits on the amount or type of equipment that athletes could use? Because there are too much, and some can be harmful, some advantages. Do you think we need to control this amount or type of equipment the athletes can use? And if there are any advancement that could be considered going too far, or cheating, for example, some technological, like meaning unfair advantage, give unfair advantage for some athletes comparing to another. Is it a fair play, yeah or not, and why? So this is like the question about limitations. Do we need to think already about limiting the use of technologies, or we just keep it like this, or do we need to control this process of implementing and the types of technologies that should be? in the market. Yes, yeah, about the control and the cheating. What do you think? Or it's hard to say now.
Well, I may say a few words about that. I think that it's very important not to be afraid of technology as it is, right? Because I heard a lot about being afraid of AI as a technique, right, in general, but it is something irreversible, and it is changing our lives, and it's up to us to not to reject it or neglect it, but on contrary, understand it better and take it onto the useful control. In technology in sports, obviously, there are some type of technologies that increase capacity or even exhaust capacity of a human body, and which is doping, and their term of doping is well known, right? And it might be a drug, but it might be a tech as well. But in this sense, we have to be very clear that doping is not acceptable. But technology is supporting or preventing injuries or unlocking some natural capabilities of the body that otherwise can't be unlocked. I think that this is a healthy tool, and in this regard, I would separate doping from their assistive helpful technologies.
Okay.
Elena, can I add something? May I?
Yes, of course.
Constantine, I agree. I don't see this as any form of cheating at all. I'd class this as ergonomics. This is I don't like this word, but I'm going to have to use it. It's facilitating improved performance, and nobody is getting an unfair advantage, which would be the case with doping. I'll give you another example from another sport. To increase, for people to be more excited about the game, they made cricket bats slightly heavier and more powerful, and a larger sweet spot in the bat, so the ball pinged off the bat better and went to the boundary more quickly, and fans were excited and that sort of thing. And that wasn't called cheating. It was a sort of evolution of the game. I don't even see that as this. This is to help people with their training. Isn't this just an advancement on training methods? It's got nothing to do with doping. And I certainly don't see any cheating at all. And if you think back to the ancient Olympics, 3,000 years ago, they had the discus, and some people wanted to throw the discus further. So they had the stonemasons put some little indentations in them to make them more aerodynamic. Then little bits of metal were placed around them, and they were polished to make them more aerodynamic. And then eventually they were covered in plastic. Eventually, not 3,000 years ago, of course, but now they are covered in plastic to make them more aerodynamic. Is this not just a case of evolution? That, as I mentioned earlier, and it is merely a training method and nothing more. Not everyone will have access to this, but that will be for different reasons. It won't just be because financial reasons. There'll be other logistical reasons, but isn't that just sport? Not everybody has access to everything, unfortunately. And if we did, then everything would be so much more equal, and it would be a case of literally athlete versus athlete. But this is just a technological advancement to improve human performance. And I see nothing personally from a psychological and certainly an ethical point of view in its implementation. It'd be great if everyone had access to it, but that's not a psychological. I don't believe it's an ethical issue either. Does that make sense? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Great.
I could add something really quickly. I think in football we should try to adapt technology as much as we can, because there's a new generation which are kind of native in mobile, VR, and augmented reality. If we deny those from football, there won't be any more football players. It's more engaging, and it's more attractive. There's a new types of sports coming, and we have to adapt hybrid sports in football as well. And football clubs and organizations really should consider this. Well, it's already happening. There's like football federations has esport teams, and there's like esport tournaments going on. It will continue to grow for sure, and we have to be on board for sure. Otherwise, there will be a new clubs who will take all the kids.
Yeah, thank you.